Your Pet Detective Show with Ardina Stewart and Angel Nieves, live stream from New York.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. We are in the evening hours coming to you from the BX Boogie Down Bronx. It's Angel Nieves, former NYPD detective, and myself, Ardina Stewart, and we are here tonight with a show that it has a lot of political implications, financial implications, but also implications for pets who are caught in I don't want to call it a political tug of war. It's just a political issue. Angel, you have some videotape.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. You know, it's bad enough that you have to get uprooted and leave your home, but it's even worse when you migrate from wherever you are in the world. You come across the border with your dog, your cat, with your pet, and you cannot get that pet through. So what do? You have to leave that pet at the point where you enter the United States. Fortunately, there's a rescue group called Bridge Pets, and Ruby Montana is the founder, and Ruby is part of the crew that takes care of those pets until the person who's coming across the border has the means not only retrieve the pet, but to take care of the pet. So Ruby, tell us about what you do.
Hi, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. So essentially, my rescue began with just helping dogs and cats that would cross the international ports of entry on their own. So stray dogs and cats, and people would be surprised at how many actually make their ways across the bridges. And it wasn't actually until summer of 2022 when I got the first family that I began helping, the first immigrant family that I began helping, who came to our border and they brought their pet with them. They made that whole perilous journey with their pets because obviously pets are part of the family. And I think anyone who's ever owned one knows that they just wouldn't leave them behind, at least not if they really, truly love them. Since summer of 2022, it's been a pretty steady influx of immigrants who have been arriving to our borders with their pets. And unfortunately, something that I am trying to actively change is that there is no set protocol in place for when these immigrants arrive to our borders with their pets. So that's where I step in. I have some help from Border Patrol and CBP agents who will contact me when there is a family with a pet. Or the families themselves will reach out to me. Word is spreading via social media about what I'm doing. I will go and get the dog, sometimes cat, find that dog or cat a foster, get them vet care, and basically hold on to those dogs or cats until those immigrants are able to be processed and allowed entry into the United States and can have somewhere to stay with their pets.
Now, there's always an issue when you're taking animals across continents, across borders of not medical issues, but medical care. So when these dogs are coming into the United States, how do you know that they've had their proper vaccinations, that they've had their proper shots? How are you allowed to bring them in if they haven't been vetted medically?
So interestingly enough, every single family that I have helped has had proof of vaccinations from wherever they are from. There's only been one occasion, and that was with a little dog named Lupe, who's very near and dear to my heart. And their papers were essentially taken away with their belongings when they were threatened to be kidnapped by the cartel. But every other family has made sure they're very careful about this process. So they always have their vet papers wrapped in plastic, like a plastic baggie or something like that. They always have their food neatly packed. It's quite amazing to see just how prepared they are throughout this journey. So yeah, they're usually vetted, and I only get them vetted just for checkups and things like that to make sure they're okay. Sometimes they're very skinny, just because they haven't been eating, as properly on the weeks long or months long journey.
Well, the bulk of the migrants coming across leave Texas, and they end up in New York City, Chicago, Denver, even California. So how many people are actually, well, I should say, what percentage of migrants are actually able to return and pick their pets up when they can't find a place to live themselves?
It's a pretty strong percentage. It does sometimes take time for them to get a little bit settled. But as of now, there are only two that haven't been reunited out of the, I want to guess maybe, I don't know, somewhere between a dozen or 15 families that I've helped with pets, maybe even closer to 20. I've lost count, to be honest. But there's only been two that I haven't been able to reunite because they are still staying in immigrant shelters and their dogs are not allowed. But fortunately, every other family has been able to find housing, or have a sponsor where they're able to have their pets, thankfully.
How are people? I mean, maybe I'm making the wrong assumptions, but a migrant person, individual comes in, has to find a place to live, has to find a job, has to support him or herself with children, and now they've got to pay for the care of a dog also. So financially, how is that even possible if it's different? If a lot of people don't even have jobs, they don't have work permits.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like the old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. They've managed to bring their pets this far with them, in the months-long journey, often crossing the treacherous, dangerous Darien Gap with their lives at risk, threats from the cartel, threats to get kidnapped. They've just been through so much. And again, these pets are not just, ornaments or objects, they're family members. So just as it's important to have their kids fed or themselves fed, they find ways to feed their pets as well.
What size are the dogs? The reason why I ask is I can't imagine somebody bringing a German Shepherd all the way from Mexico across the border to Texas. Or have you even seen dogs that size?
One in particular, his name is Rocky. And if anyone would like to see Rocky's photos or Rocky's journey, you can go to my Instagram highlights, where I have each dog as a story highlight with their names. Rocky is about the size of a German Shepherd. And amazingly, they brought him all the way from Venezuela. I think one photo in particular that got a lot of media attention and it went viral was a photo and a video of Rocky riding on top of trains, which is incredibly dangerous. And at one point, there was a 17-hour journey on top of a train. Meaning they couldn't get off, right? Rocky or the family couldn't use the restroom. It was incredibly difficult. And so they did. They brought Rocky as big as he was. There's another photo of him completely wrapped up in blankets like a little mummy, because at one point he wasn't allowed on a particular bus. And they wrapped him up like blankets and they basically just hid him as if he was blankets. Their story is absolutely phenomenal. And again, it just speaks volumes of the dedication that they have to these pets. But for the most part, the pets are usually about medium sized to small, which I think makes it a lot easier. But Rocky is a big boy, and they managed to bring him all the way.
Is Rocky like a brown dog?
He's like a tan color, like a golden tan color.
Is this him?
No, that's Lou. That's Lieutenant Dan. That dog, it was just a stray from Juarez. So Lieutenant Dan was actually, he made his way from the bottom of the international bridge on Juarez side, and he went to the very top, right in the middle of the two countries, and he just plopped down, which is amazing. And I got that call pretty late. You can tell that photo is at nighttime. It was about 10 or 11 p.m. This was during the pandemic when everyone had to wear a mask, which is why I'm wearing a mask there. And yeah, I went and got poor Lieutenant Dan. He was cold. It was winter. He was hungry. He was filthy. Got him home, gave him a bath, gave him some food, took him to the vet the next day. And he got adopted pretty shortly after, I want to say about 2 weeks after. And now he's living his best life in Austin with an amazing journalist named Brianna. And she loves Lieutenant Dan. She sends me photos of him in puppy camp. And so, yeah, he had a really good happy ending.
Where is Rocky's family now?
They're here in El Paso, and they are doing wonderfully. They have their work visas. They have their permits. They actually just rented a house about a month ago, and they're getting settled in nicely. They were able to purchase a car. And what's really beautiful about them and just Rocky's story is as much as I did to help them, because initially I did also help them with clothing. I raised money for them. Shoes, hygiene products, all kinds of things. And now it's sort of come full circle because I needed a foster for one of my regular bridge pups, one of the ones that just crossed from Juarez. And they actually offered to foster this dog for me, which I thought was so kind. They wanted to help me in my rescue. And so I just thought that was so beautiful. And so now they are currently fostering one of my bridge pups.
Now I saw a dog that was jumping with a family, like walking through the rocks or water, and they're walking.
Yeah, that's Rocky.
That's Rocky. Aha. You see, I did my investigative skills.
Yeah, that's Rocky.
That's
And
Rocky right there.
yeah, and I don't know if you saw the photo too of him on top of the trains. There's about 2 or 3 photos of him on top of trains, which is just, yeah, incredibly moving and powerful just to think of everything that they went through to get Rocky here.
That's a movie.
It's
Yeah.
a great movie. Are you kidding? That's the script is already
Oh,
written.
yellow.
I know. Yeah.
What was his demeanor when you first got him?
Rocky was always very calm and just a good pup. Never aggressive in any way. None of them actually are. They're very social dogs. And I think because they've been through so much around so many people, they're great with people and they're great with other dogs as well. So yeah, Rocky's just a gem. I love Rocky, and I'm always excited when I get to visit him.
Wow. What percentage of pets that you
Sorry, that's my dog. Sorry about that.
Oh, dog! I want to see that one.
He's a little feisty nugget. Come here, Gizmo. Come here, buddy. Come here. Okay. This is my Gizmo.
Oh, this little guy.
Yeah.
That's a Chihuahua mix or pure?
I have no idea what he is. The vet says some sort of Jack Russell, maybe Dachshund Chihuahua mix. Yeah, he's a feisty little guy. Lots of energy. He's a puppy. I've never had a puppy. He's my first one. I don't know if I'll ever get another puppy, but he's a handful.
What percentage of the pets that you take in actually get returned to their owners?
I guess if it would be a percentage, it would be about 75%, 80 that I'm able to return quickly. And then the others, it takes a little bit longer because they don't have somewhere to stay where their pets are allowed. But it's the vast majority of them that do have a plan. They do have somewhere to stay. They do have a sponsor family, and they're able to take them with them either flying or on the bus. I've also had 2 instances where volunteers have driven them to places. One was in Charlottesville. The other one, Charlotte. And then the other one was in Dallas. Actually 3, another volunteer drove one to Denver. So we've been able to reunite the vast majority of them, which is the plan. So I'm happy about that.
So the majority of the people that come in don't travel that far from the border. They pretty much stay in the Texas El Paso area?
Not necessarily. There are some families that have gone to, like you mentioned, to New York, some that have gone to Chicago, some that have gone to Florida, Georgia, Denver, where else? Around Texas as well, like Dallas, Houston. Really, they don't tend to stay here. I think the only ones that have stayed here is Rocky's family.
So how you reunite the dogs? Like if they go to, I mean, the family goes to New York or Florida. How can you reunite the dogs that way?
We pay for their plane ticket. Yeah, so we raise the funds and then we buy the dog a plane ticket. It's only actually $125 on Southwest,
Yeah.
and they've all been small or medium enough to fit under the seat of the flight. So that's how we've been able to make sure that the dogs get home to wherever they're going
So in
far
other
away.
words, if I'm in Texas and I'm going to Florida and somebody went for the dog in Florida, you give it to me and I fly it over, or you have somebody rescue her?
Yeah, so sometimes I do ask volunteers if they're willing to do that. And they're, I swear, my followers are just the absolute best. They've never let me down when I needed something to get done. They've come through. So it'll either be just a follower, right, that I then, get their information and just chat with them, and, make sure they're a good person, in the sense of trustworthy, get the information I need. And then, yeah, they'll either fly with the dog themselves, or even drive the dog to where it needs to be. So I've been fortunate to have a really loyal and determined following that have helped me a lot.
What happens if you have a medical emergency with one of those pets? Who assumes the cost of the vet bills?
Fortunately, I do have a vet account here in El Paso. So donations go straight to that vet account. So I do have a little cushion in the case of a medical emergency. And if I need more, I essentially just explain to my followers what's going on. And again, because they are so supportive and giving, I've been able to cover any medical emergencies for those pets.
And how are you funding wise? Are you getting the adequate amount of funding that you need? Or, I mean, you're always going to need funding, but
Yeah. Again, I think the power of social media is, it can't be underestimated. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without social media, because it's through, the photos and the videos and the stories of these dogs that people are compelled to help. So fortunately, we've been able to be just fine regarding funding. I think the only thing I need help with would be more fosters. It's usually the same circle of fosters, but yeah.
have you had instances where people have come over with multiple pets, or it's mostly contained just to one animal?
I've only had one instance where there were multiple pets, and it was two pugs that this woman brought along with her nephew from Venezuela. And we were able to reunite them quickly. They had a sponsor already set up in Georgia, and they were able to fly with the two pugs to Georgia. The rest have just been one pet.
What's a common, I should say, this is a two-part question.
Okay.
What is a misassumption that migrants have when they come into the States with their pets? And also, what is the most prevalent problem when migrants enter the U.S. with their pets? So it's two questions that I'm asking.
So the biggest misconception that they have is that their pets are going to be allowed with them during the processing phase, which is absolutely not the case. And it's only when they find out that they're not allowed that they sort of go into, panic mode. And then will either wait to cross until they have a plan, or if they hear about my organization, which from what I'm hearing, word is spreading quickly through TikTok. I don't even have a TikTok, but there's a TikTok going around about what I do. Then they'll contact me and make sure that they don't cross until it's guaranteed that there's a set plan. And I think the biggest obstacle is really dependent on which Border Patrol agent is working on whether or not they're going to get some help with their pet. There have been several instances which are incredibly frustrating and heartbreaking, where there have been Border Patrol agents who are not kind-hearted, who just have no compassion or empathy, and they don't care about the pets, and they take them from the families, and either, my guess is, just let them go, let them loose on the Juarez side, or give them away to someone. I don't know, but there have been multiple instances of families who claim, right, that Border Patrol took their pet and they have no record of where the dog is, which is absolutely absurd. And that's why I'm trying to change the fact that there is no set policy in place, because there needs to be. These pets are not just objects. Again, they are family members. There needs to be some protocol.
Okay, because yeah, that's what I was trying to understand. So it's at the discretion of the agent to let the dog stay with the family, or just to say, no, you cannot have that dog. There is no real firm policy.
Exactly. Yeah. So, for example, one of the immigrant dogs, or actually the immigrant dog that is most near and dear to my heart, is, her name was Lupe. And Lupe's family came here seeking political asylum. They had every right to. So it was a husband and a wife, and there are 2 kids that owned Lupe. And the husband was pretty vocal in speaking out against the Venezuelan government, and that ended up costing him his life. He was a police officer, and he was gunned down by his fellow police officers for speaking out against the government, which is absolutely horrific. They left a note at the home essentially threatening the family and saying, this is going to happen to you. You have 3 days to get out, so do what you want with that. So, of course, they packed what they could. They fled. They had to go through the Darien Gap. And if you don't know anything about the Darien Gap, it's a large portion of jungle that takes about 7 to 10 hours to cross. It's about, you're either waist deep or shoulder deep in water, just waiting. There are all kinds of deadly insects. The cartel is known to lurk around there as well, and steal the immigrants' objects, steal their belongings, steal money, kidnap them. And sometimes people even drown. In fact, in a separate incident with a separate family that I helped, their little girl drowned while trying to make it here. They had their dog with them as well, and the daughter drowned in the Darien Gap. But going back to Lupe's family, yeah, they went through the Darien Gap. At one point, they had to make a decision whether or not to continue carrying their belongings or to keep carrying Lupe. And they decided to just let all their belongings go because everything was just getting too heavy to keep on, dragging through these, murky waters for 7 to 10 hours. They went through so many hardships, and when they finally reached our border, they were initially met with a very unkind Border Patrol agent who was essentially yelling at them and telling them that they had to make a decision, either let go of Lupe or they were not going to be allowed entry into the United States. And they were all sobbing, the mother and the 2 children. One of the 2 daughters has special needs. She has Down syndrome. They were just in absolute shambles emotionally. And it was only through sheer luck that one of the agents that helps me, she walked by, happened to see what was going on. Once he told her the situation, she said, no, you have no right to do that. She explained to the family that she was going to take Lupe herself and deliver her to someone who was going to help, which was me. And so sure enough, at about 11 p.m. on a Monday night, Lupe was delivered to my home in the Border Patrol truck. And so just stories like that, right, that just make it so unacceptable that there is no protocol. It's completely dependent on which agent happens to be there.
What about, are there instances where the cartel just seizes pets?
They don't seize pets because they're not valuable. They're not worth anything. But one of my most recent bridge pups, his immigrant bridge pups, his name is just Doggy. Doggy was traveling with his mom, his dad, and their 3 kids. They made it to the border of Piedras Negras, which is about 7 hours from here, from El Paso, Texas. And they contacted me and said, okay, we're here at the border. And I said, oh, no, that's not the border I'm at. I can't help you there. I've tried to work with Border Patrol there. They don't care about my cause. Local rescues are not willing to do what I'm doing. So I said, the only way I can guarantee you help with Doggy is if you come to this border. And they did. It took them a whole other, day, 2 days to get here to our border. But they got here. Once they were at the point where there's the river that separates Mexico from the United States, and they were about to wade and cross into the part where the United States, where at least they would be safe from Mexican police and from the cartel showed up and they kidnapped Doggy's dad. And they held him for ransom. And they were demanding $8,000 from the family, which is absolutely absurd. These people have nothing. The family was able to scrounge together about $1,300. And fortunately, the cartel was satisfied and they did let him go. Right now, both of Doggy's parents and the children are in an immigrant facility about 2 hours from here in Deming, and Doggy is still safe with one of my fosters. And we are in constant contact. We're just waiting for immigration to release them and see what their next steps are. But yeah, cartel doesn't kidnap dogs. They're not interested in the dogs, but they absolutely will kidnap the people.
What about there's razor wire there now. Are they bringing the migrants are navigating through the razor wire? Do they pass their pets through the razor wire also?
Yeah. There's no other way around it. So it's incredibly dangerous. I've been there to that scene on several occasions. I see what they go through. I see what they do. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And it's even more heartbreaking when, you look at some of the things that our own Texas governor stated, for example, that he wishes he could shoot them. If only if it weren't for the Biden administration charging them with murder. These people are human. That is just such a grotesque thing to say. These people are simply trying to do what any one of us would do, which is get a better life or escape to save their very lives. And I wish that people wouldn't make such rash judgments about them. If they heard the stories of why they left and why they came here, it's not just to, have a picnic in the park and, mooch off the American government. Not at all. These people's stories are just gut wrenching. And I wish more people would take that into consideration.
Well, Angel and I both know, because we live in communities where there is a large migrant influx. In New York is just between, I think, Angel, correct me if my statistics are wrong, but between 2021 and I think 2023.
Not even close. I heard it was 90.
No, but I'm saying that between the year 2023, New York has now gotten 150,000 migrants in. And at one point during the summer, they were coming in at close to 7,000 a week, which is it's a staggering number. Right now, as we speak, there are tent cities on the Lower East Side, tent cities being created in the Bronx, and it's a real, I don't have to tell you, it's a real problem. So many people, and it's going to be a problem ongoing. It's going to be a problem it's a problem now, but going into the next election. And
now they're talking about raising our taxes, the governor. Income tax, they're going to raise it because they need money.
Yeah, but what mystifies me is that, okay, for example, people within the migrants that are coming in, you have a lot of white collar professionals. You have doctors, you have engineers, you have architects, you have teachers, you have people that already have skills that are needed in the American sector. We have a shortage of doctors, we have a shortage of nurses, we have a shortage of engineers, welders, skilled craftsmen. So if anything, you want to bring in, you want to take the people who have those skills and fast track them so that they get right into the labor pool.
Yeah, but then they're going to get a license.
They have to get licensed.
Doctor, they got to get a license from the state.
Yeah,
Or
they have to get exactly. They have to get licensed for the state.
you
But
know.
what I'm saying is that they already have some of the necessary skills to fast track them. And you're right. I mean, a lot because the medical schools there are different than medical schools here, but they still have the tools to be able to rise up to the same level that they were at in their respective countries.
Yeah.
How big is your organization, Ruby? I mean, do you whenever somebody's on the show, we always ask what they need. What if there are people listening now, so this is your platform to reach out and say this is what we need to make our organization better.
Well, we always need volunteers who would be willing to either drive or fly the pet. So if anyone is coming to the Southwest area and would be willing to do that, even if we could drive them somewhere, a little bit closer, that would be a huge, huge help. We can always use more donations to our vet account, and I'll be happy to share that information. I can share it on our Facebook as well. It's Vista Hills Animal Hospital here in El Paso, Texas. We can always use help with that. I think other than that, we're running pretty smoothly, but I think just transportation and just donations for our vet account will probably be the biggest needs.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, with the transportation, we had a show before in Puerto Rico when they had the problem with the hurricane Maria, and remember her?
Yes.
And she's actually a retired NYPD cop that moved to Puerto Rico and saw these abandoned dogs because of the hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually came out with a huge organization and is working perfectly by flying the dogs to different areas of the states.
Oh, wow.
With help of the people, like for example, you or me, I'm going to go to California. Well, I'm in Puerto Rico. Well, can you take this dog with you? We'll pay for the flight and everything. And it flies to California. And the owner of the dog or the new person that's adopting the dog is actually there waiting at the airport.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we've done, and that's what I could use more help with.
But that's what I'm saying. I could probably try to reach her out in Puerto Rico to reach you to tell you about her organization if we could get a lot of ideas about it. I mean, if everything connects, it helps out a lot more organized.
Yeah, that would be great. Truly, I would be very grateful for any help in that regard. So thank you in advance.
Even truckers, because a lot of times you have truckers. It's a lonely job. These guys have to drive, and Texas is so big. You have to drive from one end of Texas to the other. And I think some of them even take little. They have their own little dogs as companions when they have these long overnight hauls. So they might even be, interested in helping out just to have a dog as a companion on the road as they're driving that 100 miles, 200 miles from point A to point B in Texas.
True. Yeah, I didn't really consider that aspect, but that's another possibility I should look into. Yeah.
But let me ask you one thing though. In Texas, there's a huge problem with stray dogs.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
So it's not that the dogs are coming from the border and you're having the problem with the strays. You guys had it for a while. So that's something that people have to remember. Oh, now all these dogs are coming over here too now, the cynical. But the thing is, you always had that problem with the strays.
Yeah. So I don't want people to demonize the immigrants and assuming that they're just abandoning their pets and all. Now all these pets are just suddenly crossing the border. No, that's preposterous. That's not the reality at all. Our own city of El Paso, Texas has always had a huge problem with strays. Our shelters are always at max capacity. So it has nothing to do with the immigration situation whatsoever. We've got our own problems.
Okay. Right. Why is that, Ruby? I know this is about your project, but I was just reading an article today about a town, and I think it's in El Paso. It begins with a C. I want to say it's Colombia, or it is a town that has one of the highest rates of abandoned dogs in El Paso. It's not a wealthy town, but apparently people just, not only do they just abandon their dogs at will there, but people come from outside of that town and drop dogs off there that they don't want. And
that's what I think it is. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think you're thinking of Canutillo.
it begins with the C. I want to say Colgate, forgive me, because I read the article just before the show. And it was kind of an eye opener because it was just amazing when they talk about all these dogs. It's a low income area where people are able to buy
Yeah.
plots of land and kind of just
Yeah, it's either going to be Canutillo or Chaparral. Um, so yeah, because it's a lot of desert, people are just dumping dogs there. It's a huge problem. It's absolutely disgusting, and I don't know why people are doing it, but it's a big problem that we have here in El Paso. There's just a lot of struggles regarding getting them adequately spayed, neutered, vaccinated, right? Things like that. People not properly securing their yards, people not caring if the dogs get loose. They're like, well, oh well, now it's someone else's problem. I don't know why, but it is something that we rescuers struggle a lot with here in our community, and it's incredibly frustrating and heartbreaking. I've even gotten criticisms from people, why are you helping these immigrant dogs and not American dogs? I do help American dogs, and frankly, I don't base my compassion on a dog's nationality or on a human's nationality. I'm a compassionate person to all, regardless of their American, Venezuelan, Texan, or from New York. It doesn't matter to me. Compassion should just be compassion.
just as you said, it's such a funny, not funny in the sense of comical, but it's such an interesting concept that here we are now, 2024, and we have to consider a dog's nationality. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like it's craziness.
Yeah, I never thought anyone would criticize me for that. And yeah, online I've gotten some people like, "Oh, why are you doing all this for immigrant dogs and nothing for American dogs?" Like, come on. I mean, do you not have anything better to do than chastise me for just trying to help dogs? It's just, yeah. Sometimes it gets disheartening to hear criticisms like that, but I just have to remind myself of why I do what I do, and I've got thick skin and just keep on at it.
Well,
I know that feeling.
you're well admired, and we're getting towards the end of the show. I'll let Angel have the last words there.
Yes. Before we do, I got like one question before the show ends. The dogs that you save. I understand some of them is that the border's there, the family's there, so you already know who it is automatically. Just make arrangements. But these dogs that come over that belongs to some family members, can you reunite them? Because I don't think they're microchipped or anything. I mean, you can put them in the media and to find out who owns the dog, probably. But is there a way that you do it?
Do you mean the dogs that cross over completely by themselves?
On their own.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those dogs aren't microchipped, and just based on the condition that they're in when they cross, I would be shocked if they had owners. Of course, I do post on the lost and found pages. Like, this dog was found at the Paso del Norte port of entry, or this one was at the Santa Teresa port of entry. I've never gotten someone who has claimed that it was their dog. And again, based on the conditions that they're in, they're either extremely emaciated. You can see all their ribs. They're covered in fleas and ticks. They are filthy. They're limping. They have ehrlichia. They have pancreatitis. They're a mess. These have clearly been street dogs their entire lives. And so, yeah, no, I've never had the circumstance where it was just a dog that got loose from a family in Juarez and made his way over. They've always been pretty clearly strays.
And did you ever have a problem with the cartels?
I haven't, knock on wood, I have not. However, I have been afraid of when I do go to this one particular spot where the river separates the United States from Mexico. It's a gate that's specifically called Gate 36, where all the immigrants tend to go to turn themselves in. And because it's such a hot spot for immigrants, that's where the cartel hangs out. And so, yeah, there have been a couple occasions where I'm there, and my dear friend, who's a photojournalist, she knows exactly what to look for when it is the cartel presence. And yeah, there have been a few times where she's like, okay, they're here. Like, we should probably, very casually get out of here. So I have been afraid, but fortunately, I've haven't had anything with them specifically. So I hope it stays that way.
Thank God.
Well,
That's tough.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you're your own. God forbid, you're your own.
Yeah, they don't take kindly to people who help immigrants. So I realize the risk, but I really am. We try to be as careful as possible, and we immediately remove ourselves from the situation if there's even the possibility that our lives would be at risk. So, yeah.
well, you're doing yeoman's duty. So, folks, if you're out there listening, send money, send volunteers. You know what she needs. They need people that are going to drive. They need people that will help out with the dogs. They need money. So you can find her website. We showed it to you. Bridge Pups.
It's not. She doesn't have a website, but it's on her Facebook page and her Instagram.
Yes, exactly. Bridge Pups Rescue.
Bridge Pups Rescue. That's easy enough to remember. Is there a phone number where they can call if they want to inquire about adopting a dog?
They can reach me by calling me on Facebook Messenger.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
or on Instagram. They can also call me on Instagram.
All right. Well, that about wraps it up. So, Angel, take us away. Take us out.
Listen, Ruby, you're a hero. Um, thank you for what you're doing, and don't go by the negative side because you have a lot of positive side in you. Okay, that
Thank
happened.
you.
So
Thank
don't even listen to what they say. Just keep doing what you're doing. I try to help you as much as I can, even though I'm all the way in New York, and also Ardina. So we do our best for you also because we love animals.
Thank you,
And
Ruby.
people, please listen. Go to her page, donate, give good ideas, help. This is for the animals. Reunite the family. That's the biggest thing in the world. And please spay and neuter your pets, especially in Texas.
Yes.
And do you know where your pets are?